So TCP, usually the client and server will exchange the transport layer control information with each other before the application message begin to flow. But in case of UDP, it is connectionless. So there is no handshaking before the two process to start to communicate. But in TCP, there will be a handshaking phase. Connection needs to be exist between the sockets of the two process. Connection is always full duplex connection. Usually it is a full duplex connection. In that, two processes can send the data with each other over the connection at the same time. So, but the UDP provides an unreliable data transfer, since when a process sends a message into the UDP socket, it provides no guarantee that the data will ever reach the receiving process. These can include does not include any congestion control mechanism. So as it pumps the data into the network layer at any rate it pleases. So we are going to discuss about some of the application layer protocols. So in that we'll be having web and HTTP. So we'll start with the HTTP. So hypertext transfer protocol, the web application layer protocol. It is actually the heart of the web. So HTTP is implemented in two programs. One is client program and another is server program. So the client program and the server program executed on the different end systems talk to each other, exchanging HTTP messages. HTTP defines the structure of these messages and how the client and the server exchange the messages. So web page usually consists of an objects. Object like HTML file, JPEG file, or Java applet, or you can have a video clip which is addressed by a single URL. So most of the web pages consist of base HTML file and several reference objects. For example, web page contains HTML text and 5 JPEG images. Then web page has 6 objects, 1 HTML text and 5. 5 plus 1 is 6. So the base HTML file reference, the other objects in the page with the other objects URL. Each URL will have two components. You can see here. One is host name and one is path name. Host name of the server that houses the object and the object's path name. So we have given an example of some school.edu, some department and pick GIF. Okay, www.someschool.edu, that is your host, and path name is, it is under the directory of some department, and under that you will get the picture, GIF picture with the name pick. So HTTP defines how web clients request the web pages from the web servers and how server will transfer the web page to the client. Whenever you are accessing www.google.com, how the client, whenever the client requests for the google.com, how the server will transfer the web page to the client. So when a request a web page, the browser will send the HTTP request. You can see from the diagram. Request message for the object in the page to the server. The server is going to receive the request and the respond with the HTTP response message that also contains the objects. So HTTP usually uses the TCP as an underlying transport layer protocol. So HTTP client first initiate the TCP connection with the server. Once the connection is established, the browser and server process access TCP through their socket interfaces. It is important to note that server will send the requested files to the client without storing any state information about the client. If a particular client asks for the same object twice in a period of few seconds, server does not respond by saying that it just served the object to the client. Instead, server will respond the object as it has completely forgotten what it did earlier, because the server maintains no information about the client. So the HTTP is said to be stateless protocol. So that's why these are some of the characteristics of HTTP. Next, we will be having non-persistent and persistent connections. If a separate TCP connection is used for the request and the response, then the connection is called non-persistent. If the same connection is used for series of related request and response, then the connection is called as persistent connection. So now we will discuss HTTP with non-persistent with an example. Let us suppose a page consisting of a base HTML file with some of the images with total some see, for example, here we are given an example of www.someschool.edu, some department with the home index page with that contains a text with the reference of 10 JPEG images. Total we have 11 objects, one URL plus one host plus one 10 path with the 10 images. Suppose the URL for the base HTML file is this. Here, what is happening? HTTP client is first step. See here. He will initiate the TCP connection to the server. What is server? www.someschool.edu on the port number 80. Since it is web server, port number is 80. That is the default port number for HTTP. Associated with the TCP connection, there will be a socket at the client also, socket at the receiver also. See, both the things we have a socket now. Next, the HTTP client send the HTTP request to the server via socket. So the request message includes the path name. What is the path name? Some department slash home dot index. So then the server process receives the request message via its socket, retrieves the object from home department, home dot index from its storage, encapsulate the objects in an HTTP response message, and sends the response message to the back to the client. So server will process tells the TCP to close the TCP connection. After closing, the client will receive the response message. Okay, and the TCP connection will be terminated. So the message indicates the encapsulated object, that is a HTML file. The client will extract the file from the response and examines the HTML file and finds the reference of 10 JPEG image. So the first 4 steps are repeated for each of the reference JPEG objects. For all the 10 JPEG objects, this process is repeated. Okay, this is a procedure how it is going to find out. Now we have one more concept called as RTT, that is round trip time.